Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on my channel, Brutus on Baseball. In today's video, I'm going to take a little bit of a detour from the Hall of Fame predictions that I've been doing lately, and I'm going to jump into a team history video. We're going to talk about the Houston Astros in celebration of their 2022 World Series. Stay tuned and let's learn all about their history. What I'm presenting today is a series of videos that I've had on the back burner a bit, an idea to present the history of each baseball team one at a time. But in light of the 2022 World Series just finishing and the Houston Astros being crowned the champions, I figured no better time than now to present their team history. Whether you love them or you loathe them, they had a great team this year and they really deserve the win that they got. And for Astro fans, it's really great to have a World Championship that doesn't have a blemish tied to it. The Houston Astros team began in the 1962 series. The idea of them was formulated around 1960 by a group of 4 businessmen from Houston, and they petitioned Major League Baseball to allow for an expansion team. But Major League Baseball consisted of only 16 teams, 8 in the American League and 8 in the National League, ever since the beginning when they came together in 1903, and they weren't keen on the idea of expanding. But these 4 guys from Houston kind of pushed their hand. They talked to people in other cities that also wanted major league teams, and they started throwing around the idea of creating a new league called the Continental League. It gained a little bit of momentum, and as Major League Baseball started to see that these guys could actually cause a problem for them, they decided to award 4 expansion franchises starting in the 1962 season. One of these went to Houston. The Astros actually began play in 1962, known as the Houston Colt 45s. How did they get this name? Well, it was one of those classic name the team competitions. Somebody turned in the Colt 45's name because of the frontier look that Texas had at that time and the historical role that the Colt 45 gun in particular played in the American West. They would play as the Colt 45s from 1962 to 1964 in an old stadium that a lot of players in that time called playing in hell on earth. It was not a popular place. So to support their brand new team, Houston built the Astrodome to be played in the first season in 1965. And in turn, the Colt 45s changed their name to the Astros to reflect the deep history of space exploration that the city of Houston had. The Astrodome was really a marvel of its time. It was the first indoor stadium, and the Astros played there from 1965 all the way through the 1999 season. And in the year 2000, their new ballpark was built, which is the same one they play in today. The Colt 45s and Astros were a pitiful team for the first decade and a half. They didn't make the postseason until the 1980 season, and they didn't make their first World Series until 2005. They have made the postseason in a total of 16 seasons out of 61 played, most of those in recent years. They've represented their league 5 times in the World Series, and they have 2 World Championships to show for it, in 2017 and most recently in 2022. I'm going to share some interesting facts about the history of the Astros. Number 1, in the 1965 season, they had a lot of trouble growing grass in the new Astrodome because it had a roof and the roof panels reflected most of the light. So for the 1966 season, they installed a new artificial turf into the infield and outfield. It was called AstroTurf. That's where it gets its common name. Interesting fact number 2, the Astros have a very colorful team history and some of the most hideous, colorful uniforms in the history of the game. Just check out this evolution of team uniforms all the way from the beginning to the present. With the recent styles making a comeback, those hideous uniforms from the early 80s are actually in style once again. Interesting fact number 3. Prior to the 2013 season, the American League only had 14 teams and the National League had 16. There's this imbalance that MLB wanted to alleviate, and they did so by convincing the Houston Astros to switch from the National League to the American League, only the second team to ever switch leagues. Major League Baseball wanted to create a rivalry between the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers, who were in the American League already. And a lot of the biggest markets in baseball were actually in the National League, so they wanted to move one of the bigger markets to the American League as well. The Houston Astros just happened to be up for sale leading up to this time, so Major League Baseball was able to give them a discount in exchange for agreeing to move from the National League to the American League. In their 5 trips to the World Series, they represented the National League 1 time in 2005 and 4 times for the American League since 2017. Interesting fact number 4, and this is one that a lot of people know about, but not many people actually know the details very well. The Houston Astros were implicated in a serious scandal for the 2017 and 2018 seasons. They had video being taken in the outfield, relayed to the dugout, the opposing team's signs deciphered, and then they would bang on trash cans to let their batters know what kind of pitch was coming. There's a lot of rumors and debunked theories all about this, and I'll link below some interesting videos that go into a lot of detail all about this subject. The basic facts that everyone should know: the Astros were involved in a sign stealing scandal, caught and punished. A lot of other teams were doing very similar things, and no, Jose Altuve should not be considered the ringleader that most people seem to think he was. There are a total of 10 players in the Baseball Hall of Fame that played for the Astros at one time or another. I think a lot of people would find this surprising because most of those players played for the Astros very briefly, either at the very beginning of their careers or the very end, and a lot of fans may not even know that these players played even a single season for the Astros. It wasn't until 2015 that the first player joined the Baseball Hall of Fame to wear an Astros cap on his plaque. That was Craig Biggio, and he was followed pretty soon after by Jeff Bagwell in 2017. Those 2 guys are the only 2 that were primarily Astro players in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Setting aside the Baseball Hall of Fame, who were the Astros' best players in their history? Well, I split it up into position players and pitchers. The best position players, number 1 by far is Jeff Bagwell. And then no particular order after that, we've got Craig Biggio, Cesar Cedeno, Jimmy Wynn, Jose Cruz, and Lance Berkman. The best pitchers of all time? I'd have to say Nolan Ryan is probably number 1. He played a very large part of the middle of his career in Houston, but he had a lot of impact while there. And after that, I would mention Mike Scott, Roy Oswalt, J.R. Richard, and of course the current Justin Verlander at the end of his career. J.R. Richard in particular has a fascinating story, one that I'll be sharing in an upcoming video. If you haven't heard of him before, I encourage you to go look up his numbers, check him out a little bit. So that summarizes the brief history of the Houston Astros, who have now been around for 61 seasons. Thanks for joining me today. Stay tuned coming up for more videos about baseball team histories. I'm going to cover each team, so keep checking in to see when your favorite is coming up over the offseason. As always, like the video, subscribe, check out my other videos. Until then, take care and keep talking baseball.